I think a lot of coaches, right? Like, what's our value when we walk in the gym? Our value is our eyes and our voice. And when the whole team's in there, most kids don't get your eyes and your voice. You're not correcting things. Coaches have to correct. Like if a kid's shooting, it's great he's shooting for an hour, but if his footwork's terrible, his release is bad, like he's practicing all the wrong things.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the head men's basketball coach of Point University, Jake Deere. Coach Deere has 20 years of coaching experience. For Point University, he spent time at several other schools, including Florida Christian College, Trinity Baptist College, and the University of Texas at Tyler. As a head coach, he has 193 wins and 143 losses. In 2021, Coach Deere was named the Appalachian Athletic Conference Coach of the Year. He also led the Skyhawks to a regular season championship that same year. I had the pleasure of working with Coach Deere at a PGC session several years ago and was able to witness firsthand how transformational he is. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
There we go.
There he is. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Living the dream here. How about you?
Same as you.
It's been a little while since we've spoke.
It has been quite a bit since working up there at Texas Women's College.
That's right. And how long ago? How many years ago was that?
That's a good question.
5 or 6? Because you were still at UT Tyler at the time.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So at least 4.
So here's the deal. I mean, in that time in those 5 years since we were at PGC together, you've gone to become a head college coach. And I am still doing the exact same thing now that I was then.
That's all right. You're achieving success there. You're doing.
I don't know.
You're doing a heck of a job.
Maybe your growth mindset is just at another level. I'm complacent. I don't know.
You just like where you're at. Don't mess with happy.
That's true. That's good. That's good. It is true. I am happy here. But man, thank you so much for giving up your time, talking some hoops with me. And I just feel like we had such a, special relationship just that one week that we were able to work together. Being with PGC, getting to work with a lot of coaches over the years, but sometimes you see the game the same way and you kind of have something, I don't know, something special. I just felt that with you, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I appreciate the invite and look forward to it.
So tell me how everything's going your way.
Man, everything's good. We got a new class, so we got 9 new guys this year. We've had a pretty good run over the last couple of years since taking over here at Point. Really excited about this group. I think it has a chance to be a really special group. So we just finished our conditioning for the day. So
nice.
A good time there. But I really like this group. I'm really encouraged. A lot of talent, a lot of really, really great character in each of the guys. And really excited for what the future holds.
What was the program like when you took over there?
That's a great question. A lot of coaches, go through their careers, and kind of my niche is I've always been able to take over hard programs. And so when I took over at Point, to say the least, things weren't going really well. Our GPA was bad. Hadn't won a lot of games, a lot of turnover, not a lot of retention. And so it's been a rebuild, total rebuild, with the guys, with the community, with administration, the whole deal. So, but those are the kind of situations that I seem to find myself in. So that's good.
Well, maybe just because you can handle it. You have the shoulders, as a coach here at Faith said, you have the shoulders to handle that burden.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easy to come into a place where the culture is strong and there's tradition. Tough to come in when you're kind of setting it. But do you find that to be, I don't know, a little bit exciting too, because you really get to shape the direction that the program's, going to go on?
Yeah, no doubt. And Matt, I know you're a man of faith and I'm a man of faith. And when I left Tyler, I was really praying that God would open up a door. Like I was ready for a new challenge. I was ready for something different. And I had known our former AD, Alan Wilson, here for a really long time. And he kind of called me out of the blue. It was really a God thing, and just said, "Hey, really love for you to come out and consider being our head coach." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it." And so we just jumped in and got the right staff on board, got the right guys, and yeah, we've had some success. Need to take a few more steps, but we've got things going back in the right direction.
Probably surrounded by, you've either worked with or surrounded by so many great leaders. What are some qualities that you see in those leaders?
Yeah, I think number one, when it comes to a leader on any level, any business, any organization, basketball coach, is consistency. Do they show up the same way every day? And I think that's rare to find in our society. I think it's rare to find in homes and being a parent. I think it's rare to find a coach. But are we demanding excellence every day? Is that really the expectation, or do you let things slide for certain guys? And I'll tell you what, I love working with Jamin Copeland at UT Tyler, and I thought he was great. He shows up the same way every day.
He's a machine. He is a machine.
No, I loved it. But, I go from my dad, the way he runs his construction business, to, just all the different coaches I've been around. My high school coach, Bill Springer in Indiana Hall of Fame guy. And, man, he just challenged you in every facet of your life, whether it was grades, how you show up, how you present yourself, your work ethic, how you practice, your individual development, the weight room, how you eat, how you rest. He just really, really challenged you at all levels. And so I think, the main quality for me in great leaders is their consistency. What about you? What do you think?
Oh, wow. You're throwing it right back to me. I think you nailed it. One of our pillars here is excellence.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you can be excellent without consistency being right there. If excellence is, the top of the stool, consistency has to be one of the legs.
Right.
You take that out, and I think everything that you say and do will fall on deaf ears, or won't be as effective if there's not consistency within your own life. And that was the question I was going to ask you. I don't know how much today's kids have changed, because I think back to even my teammates in high school. What was the big separation between me and them? It wasn't athleticism. So many of them were more athletic than me.
Right.
It was consistency, the ability to do the mundane things over and over and over again. So how do you help these young players, high school players, come in when either their talent, their skill level, their athleticism has got them to your door, but you see that they are struggling with consistency?
Yeah, and I think, man, that's a great question. And I think what we do, and I would think what I'm really good at and what I think sets us apart is our structure from day one, and how I think young men thrive in structure. And I think it's how we do what we do, how we do our recovery. It's how we do our individual development. It's how we do practice, how we schedule classes. Like, we're very, very structured, where guys know what they're doing, what's expected, and you are what you emphasize. And I'm pretty rigid that way. Like, I'm very flexible to generate the schedule, but once we get the machine rolling, once we get going, I think I've really seen our guys thrive. And when we do our end of the year meetings with guys, that's one thing that they point out every year that benefited them was our structure.
I think some coaches like the idea of keeping players on their toes, not letting them get comfortable. But I've seen, just even here at the high school level, something like having the weekly schedule printed out, put up on the wall, or available to them, or the practice schedule up where they can see it. I remember in college, standing next to coach, he would fold the practice schedule kind of in his waistband, fold it down. And I would always peer over, and just try to see. We were always trying to see what's next. Like, how much running is it? What is on it? You take that out, and I think you allow one of your players to maybe have a little bit more sense of calm with what they're doing, and to be able to prepare better for what's going on within the week.
Yeah. And, you get to the practice thing. I started, especially when we get going, I show our captains our practice plan every day and say, fellas, this can take an hour and 15 minutes, or it can take 3 hours. It's
a little incentive there. Yeah.
And it's how you do it. It's all about, I think there's so many people in the gym and there's so many people doing things, but are you getting anything done? And we're big on that. We're not in there long, but everything we do, it's intense. It's hard. We know what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that our guys have really bought into that over the years.
So there's the organizational piece to coaching that you have to have down with scheduling, with practice planning, all of that. But then there's the art of it too, the feel of it, where, as you alluded to, you're also okay with, you know what, we need to spend a little more time here. You know what, guys, we got this. Let's move on. And I think there's a lot of brilliance in that.
I appreciate that. No, I mean, I think like so many practices you go to, right? The clock drives what everybody does.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you got your defensive rotations, you got done what you need to get done, move on, And I think your guys don't pace themselves in practice. When they know when they get to a certain quality or to a certain standard, they've done what you've asked them to do. They've achieved what we're trying to do. So it's time to move on.
I think without getting down the rabbit hole too far of system and style of play or anything, I do think that is a part of it too. The more complex you are with how you play on either end, the more things you have to add into your practice and what you're doing.
Yeah,
I've gotten to the point, I think, just because we're very simple with what we do. And I was reading Kevin Eastman's book. He literally talked about what simplicity can do for your program, your organization. And I think I've gotten to the point where, if you go back even 5 or 6 years ago, I can pull up files of Excel sheets with my practice plans, everything timed out on the side of what the real time will be, how much time each drill will be, and being a slave to that, having to stay to that time. And I don't know, I don't feel like it's lazy. And maybe you can tell me if I'm being lazy now. But I come into practice, I know we're going to shoot for half the time, because that's the most important, in my opinion. That's the most important thing. If I take shell off the board because we need to shoot more, that's just my opinion. But I write down 5 or 6 things on the board that I want to achieve. And there's no time limit to those. And it's a lot more by feel. And me and my assistant coaches, well, hey, we ready to move on from that? Yeah, let's do that. What are your thoughts? Am I being lazy now? Because I know there's coaches out there that have incredible practice plans with times. And I think I used to be one of those.
Yeah. And, some of my mentors, and I believe it, you are what you emphasize, and you want to have great shooting teams. So that's what you emphasize. And so I don't know if there's a right or wrong to it. However, I would lean more toward that style. Like obviously when you plan, you think about what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. But yeah, I'm much more by feel now than I was, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
And I think it just takes time for you to get comfortable with that. Maybe early on, younger coaches that listen, they want to have every minute detailed out. And that's an important part, or important time for them to learn what a practice feels like and flows like, because it definitely does keep the tempo going. And I love the idea of, Hubie Brown said everything should be 4 to 5 minutes long in practice. Well, crap, Hubie, I'm going over that sometimes, but I think I'm at the point now where we have one offensive philosophy. And because of that, we really just want to see it in 3 possession games. We just want to have some time to go through some things and coach on the fly with that. But maybe that just takes time.
Yeah, no, I think every coach, it's you are what you emphasize, and so obviously your practice better be structured like that.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballology. What's your BSA score? The Ballology Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Ballology mobile app. Elevate your game. What's one thing that makes your program different, stand out? It doesn't have to be just one. It could be more than that.
Yeah, so I'll do on the court, off the court. I think on the court, how we organize our practices throughout the year. Obviously, we're in a shared gym situation with other sports here. We're in a unique setup here at Point University. So we can't practice 2 hours. We don't have that amount of time. And so I think on the court, what makes us unique is our development of players. Every kid, 6 days a week, gets a half an hour with our staff in positional groups. We spend a lot of time shooting at that point, ball handling, passing, getting shots out of our offense, whatever it is, each player needs work on. That's what we're working on. We may pair bigs and smalls together. So we're working on feeding the post out of ball screens and relocating or this, that, and the other. But I think how we schedule our player development every day, we see kids grow, whether they're the best player on the team or the last guy. Every guy every day is getting better. And I think that's helped us in recruiting. We have great retention in college basketball where everybody's looking to, always jump ship and get to another place. Our kids love it because they're developed. And they, the majority of them, you have your kid here or there, but our kids like it here. They like our system. And I think off the court, we put a huge emphasis, we call it a discipleship group here of their life development, their spiritual development. We meet every Friday for an hour. We're actually going over this book right here. It's Quest 52, written by Mark Moore out of Christ Church in the Valley out of Phoenix. And we're just getting down to, guys, what's your foundation? What are you building your life on? And obviously we're a scripture based school. And so we're getting into some hard things and making guys deal with some tough topics. And we do a lot in that hour, obviously spiritually, but also life-wise, interviewing skills, resume writing, all kinds of different people from the community are invited in to help our guys grow as men.
Man, I just want to celebrate you on your approach of being, transformational with your guys, rather than just because the basketball part. I think a lot of us, we really love that part. We love talking about it. We love studying it. But yeah, I just had this idea of you probably say a lot of things to these recruits to get them there. Not false promises by any means, but trying to guarantee some things to them that this is what you will get when you come here. So, but then what you say to get them there, I think it's like you have to develop them to keep them there. Because if a player doesn't feel like they're being developed, and hopefully it's in skill, but even more as a person, maybe that is why you see just this influx of players leaving. So it seems like you are onto something there with the way you're developing the person.
Yeah, no, it's we all know that kids are coming from different backgrounds. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, but there's so much to be learned from each other in that environment. We're a Christian school, but it doesn't mean everybody's grown up in that type of home.
Right.
It doesn't mean everybody's grown up with a mom and a dad. It doesn't mean everybody's coming from a single parent home. You just don't know where people are coming from anymore. And so there's so much that's learned from each other throughout the year that I think that's what creates I call it our togetherness, our chemistry, that makes us unique.
You talked a little bit about that skill development that you have that time. Is that separate from your team practice? Like at a different, because if you're sharing gym time, but unique in the college world is they maybe have morning classes so they can come back at night. But is that separate times?
Yeah, so it's separate times. We're on the floor. We practice 6 days a week for an hour 15 to an hour 30. That's all we practice in a 5-on-5 setting. It's all system stuff. And then every kid comes in at 6:30, 7:30, or 8 o'clock in groups of 4, maybe 5, throughout the week to get skill development. And we have our entire staff. All 4 of us are here. We're hands on. It's one on one. It's one on one. Each coach has a guy, and we're just working on him and what he needs to work on within our system. I think the summer for kids is their opportunity to grow as an individual. But as soon as they step on campus, it's all about what you do to help us have success.
Mm.
And so that's a big part of it for me.
I think that's special that you have those times separate. I think it's smart that you do that as well, because you and I have probably, as players, as coaches, we've been a part of programs where season starts, individual development is done. So then really your top 2 or 3 players are the only ones getting the reps to improve, the only ones getting the focus to improve. But like at your level, but even at the high school level, I mean, the more that we can make our individual pieces stronger, the better the team is, the better. And we can't promise our parents, especially at the high school level, we can't promise them playing time. We can't promise our players playing time, but we can promise them that they will be developed every day with their skill. And we're similar, where we have an athletic period that is just dedicated to that. And I think separating those like you've done is really smart, because if they're together, the tendency, I think, for every coach is going to be, man, we need to scrimmage a little bit longer. We need to go a little bit deeper into this. And that individual skill work time slowly gets taken out and eroded. So I think you're right on the money with what you're doing.
I appreciate that. And I think a lot of coaches, right? Like, what's our value when we walk in the gym? Our value is our eyes and our voice. And when the whole team's in there, most kids don't get your eyes and your voice. You're not correcting things. You're like, coaches have to correct. Like if a kid's shooting, it's great, he's shooting for an hour, but if his footwork's terrible, his release is bad, like he's practicing all the wrong things. And passing, like good night. Like we got a 6'11" monster in the middle, and like we got guards that for 10 years, 15 years, nobody's been taught how to feed the post. And talking about angles and all those kind of things. And so, yeah, it's just, I think if coaches can't have their eyes and voice on a kid, they're not getting better.
Let me ask you this question. So at our school, we play 5 out.
Yeah.
We don't post. Rarely. I might take one of my bigger guards in there, but we're all guards here.
Yeah.
We do work on passing. I mean, I think our system is really about getting to the world of the paint and then either scoring, creating for yourself, or creating for others, and using difficult angles. Am I putting my players, at a disadvantage because of the system we play, that they don't do that action? Maybe they get that in select ball, in AU, maybe and that's another reason why you should play in the spring and summer for different voices, different styles. But if they are good passers through whatever style, when they get to you, can you help them to create and work into your system, throwing the ball where it needs to go?
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think one, Matt, we how we play, our style of play is based on our personnel. And we got really fortunate with a 6'11" transfer from the University of Wyoming that has a chance to be pretty good. And if he wasn't here, we'd probably play a little different. And so, yeah, I mean, ultimately I go back to, you are what you emphasize, and that's something we're going to emphasize from day one here. We can't start till the 22nd of September, but yeah, I think it's about, teaching kids their footwork and angles and all those types of things that can help kids become a better passer. I think the more IQ that you can instill into kids, the better defenders they become too.
Oh, nice.
I've found that Don Meyer used to say it all the time. If I could find a kid that's a great passer, he's going to make our team and make our system look so much better. But our defense just got a whole lot better because they see things that other kids don't see. And that's always stuck with me. I'm a Don Meyer junkie, and so I love reading all his old stuff and watching old clinic videos.
Yeah, I think you made a great point there, because there is a discussion out there. Is it the style of player system that I don't care what kind of kids I have, they're going to fit into this? And I think unfortunately been that kind of coach before.
Yeah.
But then there's this idea too of you take the players that you have and you figure out what is the best for them. And then, if you're a coach that's not comfortable teaching something, but there's a style of play that is best for your team, I had a coach say, well, then you better get comfortable in it. You better learn. You better grow. So I think you've done that with this player that 6'11". That's incredible.
Like the small college level, at the end of the day, like, and really Division II on down, most of us don't get always the guys we want. I mean, that's the truth of it. And you got to get the best player, the best, and for me, it's character. You got to get the highest quality kid you can and the best player you can, and then figure out how to help them be successful. Now, obviously, we have pillars in terms of what we're trying to do, but that forces me to learn. That forces me to get better as a coach.
If you're dealing more with concepts, I think you can make concepts mold around your team. If you're dealing just with the continuity, this is our continuity, this is what we do no matter what, well, then you're running flex against Kansas and they're making you reverse the ball at half court and you don't even see. That's just personal experience.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what you think about the portal and finding players now. Are you looking at high school players? Or are you looking more in the portal, or is it a combination of both?
It's a great question. I think it's a mix of all of it. Like I think college coaches, you need to have a strategy for high school. You need to have a strategy for prep. You need to have a strategy for junior college, and you need to have a strategy for 4-year transfers. I think every campus is unique, and I don't think high school kids always understand this. Our campus, I'm going into year 4, in the 3 years I've been here, high school kids aren't interested in us in terms of how we're set up. And so it's, we recruit high school, but we lose them to other schools. I spend so much time and energy and resources recruiting good high school kids. We just had an elite camp 2 weekends ago. I had some good players here. But at the end of the day, the majority of those guys are going to choose somebody else because of the way a campus looks or this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But the older guys, like the guys that we get and we sign, are guys that maybe been around the block a little bit and finally want to get to the situation where they're treated well, they have an opportunity to have success, and they can finish their degree. And, like at Point University, our people sell. You're going to find a nicer gym somewhere. You may find a nicer campus somewhere, but you're not going to find better people. And I think kids, in order to choose Point, need to have some experience to understand how valuable that is.
Yeah, maybe they've lost a little bit, and maybe they've gone through some of the bad parts of college basketball that you do hear about.
Right.
Maybe they've gone through those, and now they can have a little bit more gratitude for what you're offering. I get that.
Yeah. And I think you got to have a strategy for all. We recruit, obviously we're here close to Atlanta, so we recruit Atlanta, we recruit Florida, we recruit Texas, we recruit everywhere. But at the end of the day, like, I'm going to get guys that fit us as a program. And I guess it comes down to, I don't care who we get. I don't care if it's high school, junior college, 4-year, whatever. Like I want to get the guys that fit us, in terms of character-wise.
So it sounds like because of all the things you do off the court with culture, that you're very intentional with the activities that you do. What's one of your favorite culture building activities that you like to do with your team?
It's a great question. We've been fortunate. So when I was at Florida Christian College, we were really fortunate. I had a relationship with Lake Aurora Christian Camp. It was a great place. They had a lot of low ropes courses, climbing walls. different things like that. And what we did is really the Friday before we started our first practice, we took the guys out there overnight and we had a big campfire. And we had each guy go around the group and speak life into each teammate. You know, one thing that we appreciate about Matt being a part of our team, and we did that for every guy and every coach. And it was powerful. And then Saturday morning, we would get up and we'd have team challenges. We would do all kinds of different ropes courses and things like that. And at the end, we had the individual challenge, which was the climbing wall. You know, and our thing was every guy has to get over the wall. You're not welcome to come back to campus unless every guy gets over the wall. And it's unbelievable to me what people say when they're afraid or when they're uncomfortable. You hear all the words that have been in the pit of their stomach for years. I can't. I'm afraid. I'm this, and all that stuff comes out. And we got to get over that, because if you can't manage yourself, you can't be a healthy member of a team. And really, in that weekend, it's been powerful. And so, actually, this weekend for us is that weekend.
Oh, nice.
We're going to Woodland Christian Camp up here in Georgia. And we're going to do that Friday with our guys. We'll do low ropes course, and then we've got an individual challenge at the end.
So a couple things to unpack there. First, with the campfire, what are some things that you learn listening to your teammates speaking about another teammate? Because I've done something similar that I got from PGC, and I always love what they see. But what do you take from that?
You know, I watched the kid that we're speaking to, and it's amazing how many young people don't have people that speak positively into their life. And I'm big on that with our guys even now. Like, what you say about guys and to guys matters. And what I pull out is the body language, the smiles. Man, you just see the weight come off of people. You know, and their body language. And when guys wake up the next day, that's the best part. That's the best part. Because most of them treat each other differently, you know. And there starts to be some real depth to the conversation. And that's one thing I've learned over the years in coaching. Like, the depth of what kids talk about has changed so much over the last 15, 10, 5 years. It's amazing to me.
I think we're all guilty in the gym of just scanning for what's wrong.
Right.
Scanning for what's negative, what needs to be fixed. And obviously, like you alluded to before, we need to correct. So It can't all just be truth, but it can't all be harmony either, where we're only seeing the good things. But I think you're right. When how often do we remember the kind word or the positive thing or the thing that builds us up that somebody says to us? We remember that for a long time. So I think that's pretty incredible. How often, like, I love the idea of them having to climb a wall, and like you said, they get this, they have you see this fear. You can't really get that with running or with anything in basketball, because most likely they've done it before. If they've gotten to your level, they've been at a practice where they ran a ton, where they felt like puking, where they had to do something. So I don't know if I ever really get to see that type of depth in their fear or what their anxiety come out.
Yeah, they're vulnerable. Vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, and each guy has a belayer, you know, somebody holding the rope at the other end. You got to trust them, and you got to make it over the wall, you know, and we're here for you, but you got to do the work. You got to do it. You got to do it.
Can't imagine the smiles that you see, especially for those that are really worried about it. Once they get done with that wall, that's got to be special.
It's powerful. I'm telling you, it's powerful. It's powerful for teams, and it's fun to see every year, you know. So, but that's something we do. That's something we do as a program, culture-wise, on an annual basis, that I think is unique and special.
Since you and I have a PGC experience together, what are some things that you feel like as a coach you really took away from that time with PGC?
I go back every year to Point Guard College and watch, and it's not what is being taught. It's, to me, what stands out to me anymore. It's how it's being taught. It's how things are communicated, and that really stands out to me. The stories, the body language, the emphasis, how on point you are about your topic. Kids don't. Gannon Baker always say, "Don't kill kids sweat." And I love that. They don't want to hear me talk. Let's get to it. Let's get to the work.
It's just funny you said that. This last week in a workout, I told a story in between drills that took a long time.
Yeah.
And I realized near the end of it what I had just done. But I felt it necessary. Here's what we're going into. But first of all, I apologize for the last 8 minutes. We can't get those back. And I spoke too long. I think it's that awareness. PGC helps with that.
Yeah.
When you have somebody like Chad Sanji timing you while you're teaching a drill, and then he comes over, he's like, "Man, look how long you went." But there is training in that.
Yeah, no question. I think on a lot of levels, they're some of the best communicators in terms of how they teach. And that's why I go back. I go and attend one PGC course. I actually went to Chad's.
Nice.
In Atlanta. I just think they're excellent teachers, and that's who we are as coaches. We're teachers. We got to get better in our craft in terms of everybody's going to teach different stuff, but it's how you teach it.
Yeah, I would encourage anybody that has not been to, especially the Point Guard College session, which is like the flagship. It's the original that Dick DeVenzio taught back in the day, that I went to as a high school player twice. And it's so cool that they've really kept a lot of that curriculum the same, even as the game has evolved a little bit. But if you're a coach that's never gone, PGC is not a sponsor of the podcast, but you and I feel like you would say this too. I'm just so grateful. They've had a huge influence and impact on me as a coach. My players don't even know how bad I was 10 years ago before directing or being a part of that. So coaches, go and observe. Just be an observing coach. You'll get more notes than the athletes. And at the very end, at least, you'll be confronted with, okay, what direction do I want to go? Do I want to be transformational or continue to, or in my case, continue to be transactional?
Yeah, no doubt. No, you'll learn. You'll meet some unbelievable people, and you'll learn how to teach better. You'll learn how to coach better. And that helps everybody.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. One thing I think I've struggled with over the years is prioritizing meeting with players.
Yeah.
And having a strategy going into those meetings, and because I think we don't want players to waste our time. Our time's valuable, but we shouldn't waste their time. And so when we do meet with them, having a plan. How and when do you meet with players?
Yeah, so basketball specific, we meet with our guys 6 times a year. We meet with them when they arrive on campus. We'll meet with them about 2 weeks prior to the beginning of practice. We'll meet with them about a week prior to the first game. We'll meet with them before Christmas break. We'll meet with them going into the last month of the season, and then we'll have our postseason meetings. And those are about 15 to 20 minute long meetings, and they're very, very basketball specific. Here's what you do well from our end. Here's how I think you can help us. Here's what we need from you in practice. Here's what it's looking like in games. You're in the rotation. You're starting. You're not in the rotation. I tell kids point blank, hey, you got to be the first guy up, giving everybody a high five, getting water organized, getting towels. Like, who wants to hear that?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, I'm very, 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 very transparent about where we're at, and how we're going to help them develop.
How does that help with their psyche throughout the season? Because I think one of the hardest things as players is the unknown, like not knowing why I'm in the position that I'm in. So I would imagine those conversations, the frequency of them, really helps with role identification and those depths when they're not getting the time that they'd like.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, are you familiar with Nations of Coaches?
No.
Look up Nations of Coaches. They're unbelievable. But it gets back to why the game of basketball was created. And it gets back to, man, this thing's a team sport. There's one ball, there's 5 guys, and it was meant to build teamwork, fellowship, togetherness. And the game of basketball looks nothing like that, how it was created. But the game is still the game. And I tell our guys that, like, this game is not about you and it's not about me. It's about a team. And we got to do what's best for the team. And sometimes there's a better player in front of you. You're going to have to wait your turn. And I ask my guys all the time in quiet moments, all the time, about the game of basketball. Why was the game of basketball created? It's amazing how many basketball players play the game and they don't know why it was created. They don't know why there was a halftime. They don't know why the halftime was created, which was to share a testimony about your faith.
I didn't know that.
We don't, Nations of Coaches is unbelievable for coaches. But in terms of role identification, in terms of all that, kids accepting their role, I'm very transparent in recruiting. You work on your game. When you come in, it's about the team. And when you get a role, if you don't like your role, the other option is not have a role.
Yeah.
And it has to be that, or else you contaminate the group. And, like, we're on a mission and you battle out in practice. Like I tell our guys all the time, I don't care if you play. It's not my job to determine playing time. It's your job. If you're shooting 45% from 3 and this kid's shooting 25%, for the most part, it's easy for me to make that decision. You got to be a great character kid. You got to work really hard, but at the other end, you got to produce.
What advice do you have for high school coaches? Because ultimately at college, even though guys like you take a little bit of the business feel of it out, and like you're doing a great thing with them as people and caring about them more than just play as players.
Yeah.
But, at the high school level, where we don't really have that, here's your scholarship and you won't have it anymore. And we, at my school, I don't have 10 other dudes walking down the hallway that I can just pull from. What's your advice to having those tough conversations with players, and while running the risk of, alienating them, telling them something that they really don't want to hear? What's your advice on how we go about that?
Yeah, I think, man, we got to do a better job helping kids and parents understand this is a team game. This is a team game. It's not a you thing. And I just think, our society, social media, everything the kids see, it's all about me.
Yeah.
It's all about me. And I think it starts coming back to, there's one ball, there's only 5 players, 8 players are going to get a chance to play. We got a team of 12, 15, 16, 17, whatever you got. Not everybody's going to play. So what are you going to contribute? And then I think as coaches, we got to help guys understand how important their contribution is, regardless of what it is, and that it's valued. I think games are won in practice. And I don't think unless you have 14, 15 guys in practice, you're not going to have a quality practice, in my opinion. Yeah. I think it's hard. Yeah. And so some of those guys have to understand how valuable they are to helping the team be prepared.
I think a big part of our job, too, is to help parents understand that they have not failed. They're not a bad parent if their kid's not one of the best players.
No question.
It's way more important, in my opinion, about as far as what's a sign of great parenting is if the kid is respectful, he is a great teammate, he handles adversity well, he's going to show up, like you said at the very beginning, and be consistent with his attitude and his effort every day. I mean,
Right.
that to me, those are attributes that like I would love for my sons to have, and I feel like they do have, but I think so many times parents are wrapped up with I'm failing if my kid's not one of the best or not getting all that time. We got to help them with that too.
Yeah, and Matt, I'll say this. Something I've gone to for a lot of years is a move-in weekend for our guys. We have a player parent coach meeting. We invite the parents to be a part of everything.
Mm.
And we go over our core values, we go over everything we're going to do. Because I think the more parents know your heart as a coach and more parents know what's going on, they're going to support you. I really believe that. I think there's a lot of misinformation, and I believe there's a lot of stuff that gets stirred up throughout the year because parents don't know. And I would invite uh, coaches in general, high school coaches, to see parents as advocates and not adversaries.
Nice. I think you're right because they only see, in our case, the 32 minutes a week. Right. And in those 32 minutes, if they're not one of the five that's dominating the time, or maybe 6, 7, or 8, depending on the year, and they watch their son sitting, like that's all they're basing everything off of that, and maybe some conversations. But the more that we can bring them, Tyler Costin talks about like they're one of your major stakeholders in your program, and we can't just act as if they're not there or that their opinions don't matter. So what can we do to bring them in? I think that's great.
Yeah, I've had like I added a fundraising piece in for the parents in our meeting this year. Yeah, I'd never done that, but hey, an expectation when you play here at Point is that you give back. That's a big piece. Like in terms of how we travel, the hotels we stay in, whether we take buses or vans, whether you get one pair of shoes or two pairs of shoes. Like, I mean, it is what it is. But I think if coaches can see parents as assets, it goes a long way. When like in my case, when guy calls home because maybe he didn't play as much or he's going through this, that, and the other, the parents got my back. And I know that based on the conversations we've had preceding that.
Do you think you are uncommon in the college world with how involved you are with your players' parents than others, or do you think a lot of coaches do that?
I'm not quite sure. I just know I had a lot of issues before I started doing it, and I don't really have issues anymore. It's when the parents know your heart and know your core values and know everything that's going on, that kid that's not playing is probably going to be more apt to stay and be retained. And it's always about the people in your kids' in the players' ears.
That's right.
And I want to have a voice through somebody else. And I get to have that voice when mom and dad or whoever else is involved, when they know what we're expecting and what we're about.
Yeah. One thing I started to do this fall, I think I've done it on and off throughout the years, but definitely I've been more consistent with it right now, is every Friday we use TMAP to communicate with so it's more comes up on their phones, and not all the kids check email and stuff. So it parents and kids both, but I've been sending a Friday weekly recap where we talk about the things with our culture that we've taught that week. Like this last week was toughness and the 3 kind of pillars underneath that and what leads to toughness, but then also some things on the floor that we did. And then highlighting us, what we do senior videos of, and I let them try to talk about what we did that week. My whole idea there is I want the parents to know that it's more than just about their kid's shot. It's more than just about the basketball. Let them in. So maybe by depositing a little bit here and there once a week, whether they read it or not, they're going to have a message that says weekly recap. And hopefully when it's December and they're starting to question, what is this all about? Like, why is it so serious? Or what is my kid actually getting out of this? I have some things already planted, some ideas planted, in them.
Right. No, I think it's a good idea. Great idea.
I love asking this question. If you could start over in coaching, what would you do differently?
I think a big thing for me is seek to understand. I think so many times I was listening to a podcast with Coach Larinaga, and he talked about just listen first, listen to guys' side of the story, seek to understand, and I think that's a big one. Just to listen more, get to know guys more. Don't be so transactional early on. I was such in a hurry at a young age to get to basketball, and basketball is the easy part. It's the it's the people part. Each kid is different. They're coming from a different circumstance. You got to know them, and you got to really seek to understand them before you're a trusted voice in their life. So that's probably the best way I would say it.
I wonder how many coaches, because I know I've been like this, are having a conversation with a player, but you're already thinking about your response or the direction that you want to go with it. And I'm missing out on important details of things that I really need to know. But because I already have an agenda, I think that's a great nugget that we got to remember.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. I just, there's so many things, but I just, so much of everything is about the person standing in front of us, the player, their mentality, their trust, their buy-in. And so much of it is relationship building before you even put a ball out there.
The Jamodi Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
All right, Coach, the speed round. These are quick questions that some have to do with basketball, some don't. But The first thing that pops in your head, just blurt it out.
Gotcha.
You ready? Favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
Same. I always knew you're smart. How many hours of sleep do you need?
6 to 7.
Best basketball movie of all time?
Hoosiers.
Nice. Even the part where he says my practices weren't made for your enjoyment, is that because I feel like you and I are probably on different spectrums there.
We could be.
Than he was. I think they need to have fun a little bit. I think there's nothing wrong with that, right?
No question.
For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock.
Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving.
In basketball, this is a new one. In basketball, who is the GOAT?
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, let's go. Favorite city in the U.S. besides the one you live in?
Salt Lake City.
Okay. Favorite music genre?
90s.
Nice. 2 more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Too many, probably 12 to 20, depending on the day.
You win. You win, man. I don't know what episode number this is people I've talked to. Probably around 100 at this point. That's the most, Coach. That's the most.
No, it's too much. Too much.
But honestly, like this whole idea of caffeine, it's not bad for you. But 2, you have to have so much caffeine in a day for it to become poisonous. Like you're not. I still, even with that amount, I don't even think you're close.
I'm a 2-pot every day by about 10 o'clock.
Let's go. Do you put anything in it?
No.
That's right. That's what head coaches do. They drink their coffee black.
That's it.
That's right. Last one: Godfather, Star Wars, or neither?
Star Wars.
The Force is strong.
Right.
Even the newer ones. You good with that Mandalorian things like that?
No, I like the older ones.
Okay,
Um,
purist.
the purist. Yeah.
Well, Coach, this is just, I've enjoyed this so much. Thank you so much, one, for your friendship. I know we haven't been able to connect as much over the years, but that 1 week that we spent at PGC together was awesome. But I just really enjoyed getting to learn from you today.
I appreciate the invite and appreciate you and love following you. So thank you.
Let me ask you this. If coaches want to connect with you, find out a little bit more, maybe they have some questions from our talk today, what's the best way for them to do that?
Email me. Just my name, Jake, Jake .Deer, DEER @point.edu.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Coach.
Appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.